Hello viewers, and welcome to another installment of the Dimension 68,000. This time we're going to take a more in-depth look at the operation of CPM 68K, and also we're going to open the machine up and look at the motherboard and the expansion cards. I'd like to start with one of the interesting little features straight from the factory is that the function keys are assigned macros. I have a little cheat sheet right there so I can remember which macro does what or which function key does what. I find the most useful ones, of course, F1 and F2 for directory A and directory B. And I can demonstrate that by pressing F1 and I get a directory of what's in drive A. And by the same token, F2 would be a directory of drive B. Now, something else that's a bit unique about these machines is the status bar down at the bottom of the screen. Now it's showing A equals A, B equals A. That might be just a bit confusing, but what it really means is it's telling you what type of drive or what format the drive is. And in this case, capital A means that it is a Dimension 40 track. You also see on the status bar showing how much free memory we have. I'll give a brief rundown on some of the files that were listed here when we looked at our system disk. RAM disk is pretty much self-explanatory, and in fact I'm going to create a RAM disk in just a few minutes. Format. Now the format program is a thing unto itself because it runs in an interactive menu driven mode. And these, the disk page 1, page 3, those go along with the format program. Format W is for a Winchester or hard disk drive, which I do not have in this machine. What am I is a little utility that will tell you what is in the expansion slots. And you can see this machine has an 8086 emulator, a Z80, Apple, 512K of RAM, and the Rgb Output card. Okay, I mentioned making a RAM disk, so let's go ahead and do it. And now I usually make a RAM disk of 400K because that's what the standard floppy is. Now you'll notice another entry has popped up in the status bar. Drive K is 400 kilobytes, and our free memory has dropped by that same amount. By default, the RAM drive is already formatted, so we don't have to do anything else with it. We can just go ahead and put stuff on it. The way to transfer files, there are two ways. You might notice there is a copy, but that's not what we use. We use PIP, or Peripheral Interchange Program. Copy is kind of a special case. It will do complete disks, or it will do system files, or it will do data files, but you can't specify specific files, whereas you can with PIP. PIP works interactively here as well, or it can be command line, and I'm going to use command line. So put in PIP, and the destination goes first. And like DOS, the asterisk is the wildcard. really didn't know it was going to take this long. Alright, we're complete. Now let's switch to the K drive. Get our directory. And now let's run one of our little utilities. And in fact, I'm going to use one from the using the function key. F3 is stat and a return. Stat for statistics of the disks. And it tells you each drive that is active. There's currently not a disk in B, so it's not showing up. And now for the format program. And in fact, I think I'll run the format program right here from the RAM disk. And let's see, F8 should run format, and there we go. Now you can see all the available formats we have for a 40-track 5¼ inch drive. Unfortunately, for Ibm PC, the entry is for CP/M86, which is not compatible with the DOS-based Ibm PCs. But there are quite a few. I'd kind of like to know what that was deleted. Haven't found it yet on any of the disks I've got. But look at the other available formats for 80-track 5¼ inch drives. We have the Dimension format as well as 3 others. And for 8-inch drives, we have these. And one entry for 80-track 3½ inch drive. Now then, we'll go back. So this program, as I mentioned before, can either format a disk or it can change the format of a drive. Let's just change the format of a drive just to show how it's done. Press enter. And now there are my options. I can format, test, dump a track, delete that format, or edit the format information, or select which drive that I want to apply that format to. So I'm going to select drive B. And now you see that drive B is now an Ibm PC CP/M86. However, for further use, that's not going to be useful, and I don't have any disks to run through it to prove that it works, but it does work. Now I'm going to put it back to its standard. Now, one other thing we can do, and all I really need to do is find the information, and I can probably make an MS-DOS or PC-DOS or just a DOS-based IBM format. F9, edit format information. And there we go. And I can either change the number or I can hit return, and it will step through each one of the entries. Yes, everything is correct. Sure, let's look at additional parameters. And it basically says, don't screw with these. And even if I did, I would not save the information. I'm going to hit escape. Everything is correct. No, I'm not going to save it. Plus the system disk is write protected, so hopefully nothing would happen. Now we will hit return, and it just goes back to the menu. We can escape to exit it. A couple of quick notes about the format program. It would be very advantageous in the event that I had 4 floppy drives attached, and I actually have had that in the past, but I still don't have a format for the IBM PC DOS base things. And you'll also notice that in the format pages and the different listings, there wasn't an Apple listing, which I find a bit odd. I know that it will run Apple disk, and the Apple emulator proves that. I just thought it was a bit strange that they did not have an Apple format. The Dimension 68000 didn't break any new ground as far as styling is concerned, although they did flirt with it just a little bit by being asymmetrical. It does have the pretty much standard beige and black color scheme that was very popular in that era. We have 2 5¼ floppy drives here, space here for 2 additional 5¼ floppy drives or a hard disk drive, reset button here with the power indicator inset into the reset button. Power button is underneath the corner right here. One of their little boo-boos, as far as I'm concerned, is the keyboard connector. It's right here, kind of hidden away in this little tight area, which is A, hard to get to, and B, inset so far that when you insert the keyboard connector completely, the metal shell is flush with the case, leaving only the strain relief sticking out. So you have to try to get a grip on the strain relief to pull it out, or you may end up just pulling on the cord. Not really a very good thing to do. Now on the back here we have the RGB output, parallel port, serial port, composite video out, and the joystick connector should be right there. The main board that's in this case doesn't have a connector on the board for the joystick port. I think the electronics are probably there, it just doesn't have the connector on it. And these 2 blanking plates are for expansion. You could get an expansion chassis that would have additional drives or additional RAM. On the inside, it's just like any other PC in that it has a main board and expansion cards plugged into slots, power supply, floppy drive, that kind of thing. This board has 512K of RAM installed. 2 rows are soldered in and 2 rows are socketed. Oh, and right back here underneath that plug, this is the 68000 processor. And the expansion cards are here, the 8086, Z80, Apple, 512K of RAM, Rgb output. One of the interesting little features of the Rgb output is that you have to remove 2 integrated circuits from the main board and plug in these 2 ribbon cables, or actually it's 1 ribbon cable that's split into 2. If we bring it back around here, you can see the ribbon cable right there attached to the card. Let's take a closer look at the main board. You can see the sockets for the RAM here. The plug for the reset button and the power indicator here. Main power goes in there. Here's the Motorola 68000 processor here. Keyboard connector there. Expansion slots. Built-in floppy drive controllers with the outputs here. One output for 5 1/4 inch floppies and one output for 8 inch floppies. And it can run 4 of each floppy at the same time, so you could have up to 8 floppy drives connected to the machine. And in the back we have the composite output and the parallel and the serial. I think over here is video, and this trimmer right there, perhaps I can mess around with one of those and get the composite output to be a little bit better, because thanks to user V Westlife, when in the Apple and IBM emulation videos you saw that there was no color. He suggested that I check the composite output for a color signal, and sure enough it was there, but it was so unstable that it just was unusable. So perhaps I could do something with that later. Well, we turn the main board over and oh dear, what's going on here? We have a lot of jumpers, or patches, whatever you want to call them, running here, there, around there. A really nice one there, like a transcontinental highway, and one here. I'm not sure if this board actually works or not. I have not hooked it up. I have multiples of some of the expansion cards, and I have some expansion cards that I don't have the software or the knowledge to make them operate. So let's go through them, and we'll start with the Apple emulator. And you can see that the processor on it is not a Motorola, but Rockwell. I believe that's this Rockwell's insignia. And the back side. Okay, next is the IBM PC Emulator with a genuine Intel 8086 processor. And the back side of that one. Next up on the block is the Z80. And this one I have 2 other different revisions of it. This one, I don't know if we can see it up here, where it says Dimension Electronics, or Dimension Z80 Emulator right there. And the others say Microcraft Corporation. And the layout, the basic layout of the components is the same, but the ground planes are laid out a little bit different. Not quite so extensive. And the back side. And well, it looks like their revision may not have quite lived up to what they thought it would. Okay, and next up is 512K RAM. I'm not sure what the empty socket is here on the end. Why would you want, oh, maybe local bus perhaps? Who knows? Well, somebody knows, but they're not talking. Backside. The Rgb card. The connector where the ribbon cable connects to the main board. And I don't have the little brackets for the Rgb card. I wish I did, but they're not unstable at all, because in the top of the case is a big foam pad that presses down on the top of the cards and keeps them from wobbling around. Next, now we'll get into the ones that either don't work or I don't know how to operate them. And this is one that just doesn't work. It's a Winchester controller, or hard drive controller, for an MFM hard drive. I have used at least 3 of these, and don't worry, I have plenty more. They will work for a little while, up to a day perhaps, and then quit working. I haven't autopsied one to find out exactly why it doesn't work anymore. Next up is the TurboGrafx card. It has a 9-pin connector, so I'm assuming that it's EGA. And this card, apparently, if you put it into a working computer, working dimension computer that is, it does something to the onboard video and it never works again. Once again, I haven't autopsied to find out exactly why. I just didn't put it in any more machines. Next up is an MMU, a memory management unit. This could be, for the much rumored, among those who know anyway, Unix implementation for the Dimension 68000. I have a manual for Unix, but no software to go along with it. And who knows if it even actually works, looking at the back of it here. And also the empty sockets. I have no idea what goes there. I haven't yet found any documentation for this board. And lastly, we have the 8-port serial card. I would think that that would be something that would also go along with the Unix for a multiple user environment. But I have no documentation for this either. And there you have the many and varied expansion cards for the Dimension 68000. I'm sure that this is what most of you wanted to see, the stash, so to speak. And it's quite a bit, actually. The Microcraft Corporation was in Dallas, Texas, and they sold out to a group in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and I live really close to Fort Smith, Arkansas, well, about 7 miles away. And when they folded, I acquired a lot of the stuff that they had in their, I guess you call it research and development. But you can see there's lots of cards, lots of books. Some of the books have discs in them, some don't. Sadly, this Unix does not have discs in it. And there are pieces of IBM software that I suppose they were using for research, and underneath that, of course, is more books. And over here, well, how about more books? Box full of power cords, power supplies. In this nasty box there are keyboards that are literally brand new, still factory wrapped, but I can guarantee that they will not work. The foam pad in the mechanism has rotted away in all of them. You'll get one key press and that's it. More goodies. If I can move around here without falling over. In here we have badges. And yes, we do need stinking badges. Quite a few of them. And another box full of them. They were nothing if not optimistic. And up here, main boards in various states of assembly. And you can see that a little bit of the stuff is water damaged. Like, I'm sure that those floppies are no good anymore. Those are 8-inch floppies. My storage shed got damaged by a thunderstorm and leaked some. But it only got a little bit of the stuff, not a whole lot. Here's a box full of floppies. Okay, and over here we have parts. Parts bins. Everything from components to hardware to more ooh, what's that? $8086 Fairchild. Oh, that's interesting. The others are just ceramic 8086s. More 8086s. Like I said, they were a little bit... Ooh, I bet these caps are really, really good after being out here for nearly 20 years. Aha! Vaporware. And more components and hardware in this. And over in this cabinet, this is all 7400 series, starting with 7400 right here. Just one poor little guy in there. And what is he? Oop, he's upside down. He obviously belongs in the southern hemisphere. And I'm sure that storing these in these plastic bins is really, really a good idea. Kind of too late to do anything about it now, I guess. Memory. So, as you can see, quite a bit of stuff. Oh, and yes, there is one more thing. Cases. Can I get over there without killing myself? Not all of these cases have main boards in them, and I'm betting that the vast majority of them don't work. And there's one that's black. I think they just painted it black. Maybe they were experimenting. But I don't have the top for it. I suppose I could paint one of these others black. But I do have a black keyboard. I think that it's right over here. There it is. Black keyboard. Of course, the white keys, just doesn't really pop for me. Something I just now noticed as I was leaving the room, these connectors on the back of this, and there are 4 of them. One down at the bottom, at the very bottom of the stack. But if we look here, those are not connected to anything except among themselves. This one, well, can't really see in there. Okay, now I can get a better look at it. That 9-pin goes there, and there's no explanation on the board of what that is, and then it goes over here, and that says light pin. Well, that wraps it up for this installment of the Dimension 68000. If there's anything I missed or something specific that you would like an expansion upon, just please leave a comment and I'll see what I can do to accommodate your requests. Thanks for watching.